Hi, my name is Thomas Stringfellow. I'm the founder of Stringfellow, and would like to talk to you about what's happening with the world's economy right now and how there's lots of opportunity in the world, but at the same time there's significant risk. We're concerned about what's happening in the world over the short term. In fact, we're quite convinced that there's going to be a stock market crash. And the reason why there's a stock market crash is that ultimately we need to have a look at what's happened in the past. And based on what's happening in the past, we can understand with what's happening with the world today and what could potentially happen to the world in the future. So we're going to put a slide up and we're going to show you the Dow Jones, which is the American stock market. And essentially what the American stock market is the most important thing in the financial world, because that's where all the biggest businesses in the world are listed. That's where they raise capital, that's where people sell equity, etc. And if we look at the Dow Jones, and we go back to the 1929 stock market crash, and you can see on the graph that it's a blip. But during that time period, it was a major event, and it's still a major event today. But it says a lot about what's happening with the world right now, that if you look back, the Great Depression looks like a non-event. But it was a huge event, and for those people who invested at the peak just prior to the crash, it took them 25 years to recover. That's a lifetime. Now, if we go then to the early 70s, there was a very important law that was changed, because what central bankers do is that they can print money, they can put money into the system, but there used to be a law saying that they could only print as much money as there was in their gold reserves, just to protect them and to make sure there was value attached to the US dollar. But they just felt that that was holding them back, and they felt that they could do better without that law, so they changed that law. So by being able to print money, to put more money into the system, the economy grew, inflation went up, but so did their debt levels, because ultimately they still need to pay that money back. Then in the 80s, another major event took place, and that was the World Wide Web, or was the internet as we know it today. And so people were able to transact far more quickly than they've ever done in the past. And with that came volatility. And then we had the dot-com crisis, because people were very excited about this new economy, very excited about this new world that we're living in, and how we're able to share information so quickly. So a lot of investors were investing in companies that were operating from a garage, and two guys sitting there, and they've got a website, and investors threw billions of dollars at them. And unfortunately, a lot of these companies failed. So that led to the dot-com crash. Then we had 9/11, excuse me, and then we had the war in Iraq, and then ultimately we had the financial crisis. Now, what happened with the financial crisis? In simple terms, in my opinion, the financial model is flawed. And why do I say that? The reason why I say that is that whenever you go and put money into the bank, let's assume you've got 100,000 Rand, and you go and put it into a traditional bank investment like a money market account, what does the bank do with that money? They give it to people who need debt. And they're geared. So with every one deposit that they're taking, they will give it to 15 or 30 other people. So if we were to go to the bank today and ask them for our money, they don't have it. That's why you have a thing called a bank run, because they simply don't have our cash. So there's a problem with the model. So what was happening prior to the financial crisis is that the banks were giving money to people who had no income and no jobs. I know it sounds crazy, but it's called ninja loans. But the banks were very buoyant at the time, they were very aggressive, everybody thought that property is the place to be. So the banks were willy-nilly, especially in the States, giving money to people who were unsophisticated investors. Those investors were investing in the property market, assuming that the property market just goes up all the time. But property market, just like any asset class, has its good times and its bad times and moves in cycles. So those unsophisticated investors weren't able to give the money back to the banks, and therefore the banks failed. So what happened? Then the government had to step in, or the central banks had to step in, and they had to rescue the banks because the thought was that the banks are too big to fail. So they threw money at the banks. They threw money at the financial system, which rescued the financial system and ultimately rescued the world's economy. But at what price? And we believe that we're paying the price today, because essentially what they've done is that they've taken the can, they've kicked it down the road, but now they've made the problem bigger. Okay? Because if we look, and this is our main concern, we look at US debt levels, they are unsustainably high. We're going to show you another slide where you can actually see US national debt, that's government debt. And you can see it was relatively stable for a long period. But then in the 1970s, when that law changed, debt levels went up. Then we had the financial crisis, and debt levels just skyrocketed. So in 2010, America's national debt was sitting at about $14 trillion. That's right, $14 trillion. Now, you can all do this, go onto Google and type US debt clock, and you can see what the US debt levels are today. You can actually watch it live. And it's frightening because now they're sitting at nearly 22 trillion US dollars. But that's not their total debt. Their total debt sitting at about 77 trillion US dollars. Now, I know not everybody's a Trump fan, and I don't believe everything he says, but ultimately when he says, let's make America great again, is that what he's saying is that the debt levels is a major issue, and the only way to sort out their debt levels is to make America great again. But it's still going up. And now we have trade war between the US and China. We've got the two most powerful economic forces in the world fighting with one another. And what's the price going to be? What's the outcome going to be? And quite frankly, nobody knows. Then we have Brexit. The Brits don't even know what they want. Europe is saying you can't leave. And there's a standoff. And ultimately, Europe is falling apart. That's a major event. So if you take into consideration all these global events that are taking place, something has to give. And we're just concerned that too many investors are unaware of these global events, they're unprepared, and they may ultimately pay the price. So what we suggest is reach out to us, send us an email, we'll have all the information of the links, go to our website, phone us, come and chat to us, we'd like to have the conversation, and let's engage, and let's see whether your portfolio is prepared for this crash that we think is imminent. And we're not the only ones to say this. There are many other commentators. You can go to YouTube, you can go to Google, you can type in the stock market crash, and you can see that there are many sophisticated investors who are warning people that the crash is coming and we need to be prepared. So please reach out to us and let's have a good chat.